name is Marcy Berger, and I'm the Member Services Coordinator at ASTA. Welcome to Speedy, Smooth, and Safe, Test Driving New and Future Consumer Billing Payment and Collection Models, presented by Darcy, Locke. This presentation is a part of ASTA's Business Partner Webinar Series, which allows industry experts to share timely educational topics directly with ASTA members. The webinars are designed to provide information that allow ASTA members to more effectively design, develop, and implement strategies for their company's success. For more information about the series or how to become a presenter, feel free to reach out to me following today's webinar. A few housekeeping notes. To ask a question, use the question box on the side of your screen. The slides and recording of today's webinar will be available on ASTA's website in the Webinar Resource Center. Finally, you'll receive a survey after the webinar is over. Please take a moment to complete it. Your responses help us fine-tune the program so we can target the issues that are important to you. A bit about our presenter. Darcy Locke, Principal New Business Development Executive at ACI Worldwide, an 8-star ASTA Premier Business Partner, has been an ASTA member for more than a decade. Darcy is the chair of ASTA Business Partner Board. She's a trusted advisor in electronic billing and payments with 18 years of experience, specializing in the consumer lending market. She gets fired up, helping lenders elevate the customer experience, remain compliant, and reduce costs. Darcy lives in Louisville and has attended the Kentucky Derby for more than over 25 times, is an avid runner, and has logged 1,295 miles in the last 2 years. Two of her favorite pastimes are watching her kids, Bailey and Zach, play sports and trying new recipes. She once successfully attempted 52 recipes in 1 year. And now I'll turn it over to you, Darcy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy, and love to hear you pronounce Louisville versus how I pronounce it. And, thanks to all the participants for joining today's session. Today, we're going to review the latest speedy, smooth, and safe billing and payment models. For speedy, I'll share the latest research on what consumers expect regarding fast payments. I'll also provide an overview of the latest payment rails to come out in over 40 years, right? Real-time payments, including how both billers and consumers will benefit from RTP and how requests for payment function will really change the game. Then, we'll also look at smooth billing and payment methods, focusing on the importance of an integrated billing and payment experience. And this is going to include mobile wallets, alternative payments, and even in-car payments. And then for safe, we have the latest update on how many customers or companies are PCI compliant these days, and we'll hear what consumers think about payment security. And then I'll also give a quick overview of some new security challenges that have come up due to the recent events. And then finally, we're saving time at the end to answer your questions, but remember, you don't have to wait until the Q&A section. You can submit your questions at any time in the Q&A window. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Today's test drive is going to be featuring vehicles manufactured in the great state of Kentucky. And as Marcy mentioned, I live in Kentucky in the Louisville area and have attended too many Kentucky Derbies to count. And then, I've also been in the bill pay industry more years than I'm going to count out loud anyway. And as you heard, I'm also a mom with 2 young drivers who, suddenly think they are too smooth and, for my safety and speed talks. So enough about me. Let's buckle up and get ready to learn about some of the speedy, smooth, and safe cars built here, as well as how today's consumers prefer to pay for those. First, we'll cover speedy, including traditional, faster, and real-time payments. And so our first stop on today's tour is down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, home of the Corvette Assembly Plant, as well as the National Corvette Museum. The assembly plant employs about 1,000 people and covers 1.7 million square feet. The museum is just down the road from the plant and includes memorabilia and in addition to more than 80 different Corvette models from over the years. Maybe some of you guys remember Bowling Green making the international news in 2014. And when does Bowling Green ever make the international news, right? When in a bizarre turn of events, a sinkhole opened inside the museum and swallowed 8 display cars into the ground. Luckily nobody was hurt, and many of the cars were restored over time, and the museum visitation skyrocketed that same year, as people from around the world were drawn to witness for themselves the destruction Mother Nature had caused there. And though the sinkhole has since been filled, the story continues to draw attention, and the museum now includes a Corvette cave-in skydome sinkhole experience. Funny anecdote on the museum is, I asked my son when he was, a lot younger if he wanted to go to the Corvette museum over spring break one year, thinking it was a cool thing for mom and son to do, right? And he literally refused to do any museums while he wasn't in school. Some kids, right? Yeah. Let's go ahead and take some time for our first poll question here. So the Corvette's been around since 1953. So in what year did Chevy sell the most Vettes? There's 4 choices, and we've given you a little snapshot of each model to refresh your memory of how the Vette has changed over the years. And so please take a moment and let us know what year was the most popular for this classic American sports car. And then while we're doing that, seeing these pictures brings up, some fun memories of my Uncle Mike taking my sister and I for rides, in his Vette when we were little girls, and being a parent today, right? I can't believe my mom let us even go. He was in his early 20s at the time where speed, was definitely a factor, and there were no seatbelts required either. Let's see what the results were. That's funny. This looks like a split between 69 and 2016, and the actual answer is Chevy sold the most Corvettes in 1979 with a base price, if you can believe it, of just over $10,000. So the 79, Vette took about 6.5 seconds to get to 60 miles per hour, and it averaged about 13 miles to the gallon. And if you compare that to the 2021 Corvette, it gets about 20 miles to the gallon, but gets to 60 in less than 3 seconds. And it'll cost you at least $58,900 to get into the driver's seat of a 21 Vette. And then a fully loaded model would run you closer to into the 6 figures. When it comes to payments, younger generations expect Corvette performance. Twice each year, our ACI SpeedPay Pulse survey studies over 3,000 consumers across the U.S. on their billing, payment, and communication preferences. And, we asked folks what they thought about the time it takes to process bill payments. And as you can see here, about a third of the younger generations are frustrated with the amount of time it takes, despite the fact that they're more likely to use digital payment methods. So billers are going to really need to focus on delivering faster payment methods to satisfy this younger consumer. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Just like kids eager to get to the next destination, consumers want to know if their payment is there yet, right? So the ACI SpeedPay Pulse study asked consumers how soon they check their payment source or account to make sure that payment processed. And about 80% will check the source within the week. And then younger consumers are likely to check it immediately. And then of course, younger generations are generally a bit more impatient, right? However, they're also new to paying bills and find the experience, much more complicated per our research. And hence, they're more worried and check to make sure that they made the payment correctly. It's, it's funny watching our 21-year-old daughter manage her checking account and Venmo balance, mostly from her phone. She's used to having a real-time balance, and while she's not paying bills yet, she's thrown off by anything not happening in real time. So, I would imagine ACH, bank bill pay, and some of these other batch type bill pay services, would be super confusing, for these younger consumers. This need for speed will, certainly drive some customers to change their payment habits. Our survey asked consumers if they'd be willing to change how they pay if it meant the payment would process faster. And again, the younger the consumer, the more likely they are to make a change to get that payment processed sooner. There's now a way to meet this need for speed with real-time payments. Here we show the various payment methods and compare the speed in which they process. And of course, cash has been around for a long time, right? It's really the original real-time payment method if you think about it. The payment processes as soon as the cash goes from my hand to yours. In the case of bill payments, it may take a day or more to process and post to an account, especially if it has been processed in a batch file. And then, check and card payments can also take a few days to post depending on the processing method. And then next, there's faster payments, such as same-day ACH from Nacha, which generally posts within hours. And then payments using debit push like MasterCard Send and Visa Direct can arrive within minutes, as well as those, running on the Zelle network. And then, coming soon are the real-time payment rails from the clearinghouse and Fed. We had a webinar a few weeks ago with Keith Gray from the clearinghouse, where he let us know that, RTP for bill payments is going to be available in the coming months. And then ACI Worldwide is the global leader in real-time payments. And trust me, we're working hard at making this happen for our biller clients. The Fed is also planning to launch, another real-time rail called Fed Now in a few years. And so ACI is super excited to be participating in that pilot, which is, going to help shape the overall instant payment strategy. So, what I'd say is definitely stay tuned for more to come on this initiative in a future session. Real-time payments is going to bring a lot of benefits to billers from all industries. Why? Partly because the funds are guaranteed, right? Reducing the collection efforts associated with exceptions and chargebacks. And then, the funds are sent much faster, which provides a better customer service, especially when you think about those that need immediate confirmation or those that are like literally making a last minute payment at the deadline. RTP from the clearinghouse is also going to include enhanced and consistent data using ISO 20022. And, this is going to mean more accurate account posting and the ability to post one payment to multiple accounts using the data within the transaction itself. And these payments are, they're going to lower costs overall with less exception processing and fewer terminations and or repos, right? Real-time payments, certainly have a ton of benefits for consumers too. Why? Because the funds are guaranteed. There's no NSF, fees or negative impacts to their credit, right? The payment's going to post and then be confirmed immediately, providing that peace of mind. And then it's also going to help with cash flow management, especially for, younger generations that rely on the current balance provided by their bank rather than, a checking account register. I know personally, in my college years when I was lucky to get $20 out of the ATM, those checks in the mail could get me into hot water fast, thinking I had more money in my account than I actually did. And maybe some of you guys are laughing. I'm sure you've been there and done that, right? Well, that's magnified by, 1,000 times with today's younger consumer, many of which don't own a checkbook or, if they do, they can't find it. So, they want to pay bills with what's in their wallet and have that deducted instantly from their bank account balance. And, the enhanced data and more accurate posting of, RTPs is going to make for a better consumer experience with, less errors to chase down and then more consistency with, how they're used to their financial transactions working. real-time payments is soon going to feature something called request for pay. And this is going to be a total game changer for billers. If you've ever used Zelle, to split a dinner check with friends, the experience. The consumers will immediately receive a request for payment, including advice on what it's for, and then can authorize a funds transfer from their account to yours in really seconds. Babysitters across the country are already leveraging requests for payment to improve their cash flow. Billers are able to do, they're going to be able to do the very same soon. I know I use this all the time paying my hairdresser now. And then also lenders are going to be able to send a request for payment just like this with, most consumers, responding quickly to transfer funds directly from their account into yours. And then speaking of game changing, imagine for a minute, how request for payment is going to impact your collection shop, right? Imagine if you could send a request for pay and then get, that payment right back in seconds. Now we'll slow down a bit from the Corvette speed to look at how smooth payments are just as important. And that brings us to the second stop on our auto plant tour around Kentucky. So the Lincoln Navigator is about as smooth of a ride as you can get these days and is manufactured just down the road from me here in Louisville. The Ford Motor Company started building cars here, about 108 years ago, building the Model T at the Louisville assembly plant. And so, while they still build cars like the Ford Escape there, the shiny new Navigator is built at a second factory here in Louisville that also builds pickup trucks. And that Kentucky truck plant covers nearly 5 million square feet on 500 acres. And it employs about 8,500 people and houses approximately 30 miles of conveyor belts. A new Lincoln Navigator is going to set you back at least $76,000, but you'll definitely arrive at your destination smoothly and in style. And, smooth is where it's at, according to the experts at ITA Group. In another study on consumer billing and payment habits, ITA provided some recommendations on how billers can remove friction from the bill payment process. We've listed a few of those here. So, ITA recommends automating certain tasks, especially when it comes to, account setup. They also recommend that billers offer a variety of payment options. So, consumers can choose the best one, to fit their needs. And then providing more information regarding the payment experience is also, super important. They mention improved messaging, including mobile notifications. And then finally, ITA also recognizes the need for speed from our previous stop, and then recommends that billers offer, real-time settlement to remove the mystery around, when a payment's going to post. Delivering a smooth payment experience, means delivering a convenient one. In our Pulse study, we found that convenience was the number one reason cited by consumers in driving their choice of payment methods and channels. And then convenience is driving them from, to make payments at the biller's website, and then motivating them to set up recurring checking account deductions and debit card payments, and certainly increasing the adoption of, digital billing statements. Note the awesome auto loans notification here. How much more convenient can you get than managing your payment on your watch, right? The experts at ITA agree, stating that convenience is king in their report, and then concur that convenience is driving change in consumer bill pay behaviors. We talk about this all the time. A prime example of consumer behavior shift due to convenience is ride sharing, right? I mean, when was the last time you called a cab to pick you up? Or, for those of us that used to travel, even renting a car. Ride share services provide, that smooth, frictionless experience for the customer. And the same can be said for food delivery services. It's not just for pizza anymore. We're getting everything from groceries to fast food to fine dining options delivered to our doorstep. And these are only a couple of the examples that have rapidly and permanently changed the behaviors, largely due to convenience. And the same holds true for consumer bill pay. Just like the convenience of a smartwatch, Consumers are using mobile wallets built into their smartphone more and more, especially due to the recent events of 2020. And you can see here that consumers of all ages are using mobile wallets more year over year. And, as people are finding them, as a convenient way to make contact-free payments in stores at the point of sale. And so the good news is that over 40% of consumers that use mobile wallets have paid a bill with one. My favorite realization about mobile wallets in my personal life was, when a friend and I were biking in a local park and we happened upon a music fest, and we literally had no cash on us, since we were supposed to be exercising. However, since we did have our phones, we were able to buy, a couple of beers and even do some impromptu shopping all from our mobile wallets. And that's really when I realized how cool and convenient the mobile wallet really is. Another smooth and convenient way to pay is using an alternative payment method, such as, Venmo or PayPal. Consumers think so too. More than half of them from 23 to 34 years old would consider paying a bill with an alternative payment method. It really is simple. Instead of entering or even remembering a 16-digit card number or a routing number plus an account number, the consumer uses, his or her email address or a mobile phone number to access the alternative payment method. And then, in the case of PayPal, they can access any of their saved payment methods or, their PayPal account balance to make that payment. I know for sure our daughter uses Venmo, so much, mostly funded by us and her granny, that she recently got a Venmo debit card to make it more convenient, to use those funds. It's not just for the younger customers. I mean, I use it all, too, all the time, right? Talk about advancements in technology. With being home so much over the last year, I've been decluttering our house and, posting items for sale on our neighborhood marketplace. And people have been using Venmo to, pay for the items, and then they're picking them up at the doorstep. So it's changing the way we yard sell. And soon it'll be, a more mainstream way consumers pay bills. We've seen how easy and smooth it can be to make a payment, for the Lincoln Navigator, but what about filling it up? So, our friends at Visa are working to solve this too. Visa is partnering with Honda Motor Company to add payments to your dashboard. And so soon, you'll be able to pull up to a smart gas pump and then authorize your fill up from the screen on your dash. And then, once you get to that destination, you'll be able to pay the parking meter from the same screen. And then in addition to that, your friends here at ACI are already engaged with some of our captive auto clients interested in exploring dash bill pay options. So, and then finally, while parallel parking the Navigator might intimidate some, including me, the folks at Ford have figured that out too. Lincoln's featuring an active park assist to do that for you. So now that the Navigator is filled up, let's move on to the next stop on our tour and talk about safe payments. This brings us up to Georgetown, Kentucky, home of the plant that makes the Toyota Camry, which is, one of only 49 vehicles to receive a top safety pick award from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. The factory in Georgetown is Toyota's largest factory in the world. It covers over 2 square miles and employs about 8,000 people. The plant has produced over 11 million Toyotas since it opened in 1988. And the Camry, includes 10 airbags and enhanced stability control. And, safe doesn't necessarily mean boring. Believe it or not, the 2021 Camry is faster to 60 miles per hour than the popular 1979 Corvette. So let's take off and look at how safety factors into how consumers prefer to pay for their cars. And so before we merge onto the safety highway, let's take another poll question and consider it. So we just heard how safe the Camry is, but how safe or compliant are the card payments that are processed according to the Payment Card Institute? Verizon conducts a thorough investigation of PCI DSS compliance at companies across industries. And the report is over 100 pages long and is very comprehensive. So The question is, what percent of companies are fully compliant according to the latest report? Tell us what you think, and please share your thoughts by voting in our poll. Ooh, so it's a tie between the results, but according to Verizon, only 28% of companies are fully PCI DSS compliant. And a lot of you guys were right on the mark there. So in other words, 72% are not fully compliant and need to work on improving their security environment. PCI DSS compliance has been dropping for a few years now. Compliance peaked in around 2016 at 55% and has steadily been dropping since. Being PCI compliant means, meeting several requirements. And so the Verizon report highlights the areas where, companies are strong, such as restricting access and then protecting against malicious software. And then they also list areas needing, most improvement, which, includes testing security systems and processes, as well as developing and maintaining, a secure environment. The good news is that, consumers feel secure. So in our Pulse study, we included a question to determine how confident consumers are that their financial data is secure when paying bills. And so 83% are very or somewhat confident about data security. Recently, ACI released a security trend report, based on the Pulse data. And that report dives, deeper into the consumer perceptions on payment security, and then has recommendations on how billers can increase consumer trust, which, is a factor that can make all the difference in terms of customer retention. And the recommendations include prioritizing consumer education, implementing additional authentication methods like biometrics, and then, keeping up with the regulatory landscape. The events of 2020 certainly created a major shift in how and where phone calls are answered, and then how payments are taken. Instead of like 300 agents across 3 call centers, a lender may now have 300 agents working from, 300 locations. At the call center, the lender, can certainly control data security and the quality and stability of the network. However, ensuring security at 300 remote locations is, a much bigger challenge. And then, on top of these infrastructure challenges, the call centers have, increased call volume, with more payment arrangements and more challenges in just staying fully staffed. So PCI compliance right now is especially challenging. And so here at ACI, we've developed solutions for this. Our Agent Card Assist Plus solution, takes card info out of the equation. With the Agent Card Assist Plus, the consumer enters their account information using the keypad on their phone. And then, the phone tones are masked so the agent can't hear them. And then, the account number is also masked on the agent screen. So they never have access to the card number. So these types of technologies are going to be key in keeping data safe, with many of our lender clients reporting, that they don't see the remote working environment changing anytime soon, if ever, right? With many of them looking to reimagine how work is done and even what role offices should play. So despite all of these new digital ways to pay, some consumers do still prefer to make their car payment in person. And so while last year's events have certainly reduced the number or preference for in-person payments, 85% still prefer to pay this way. And so local restrictions may be preventing lenders from accepting payments in their offices or in the branches. And so thankfully, there's solutions out there for that too. For example, ACI SpeedPay, has a solution that lets consumers pay for their bills at a retailer, near their home, with extended hours of operation, as well as, payment kiosks that lenders can place in their lobbies to take payments 24/7. And so our next stop takes us to our final poll question for the day. And so we'd like to know, what is your biggest payment challenge? Is it, delivering a speedy, fast payment experience? Is it providing the consumer choice needed for a smooth payment experience? Or is it security that challenges you? Let us know. Please take a moment to share your biggest challenge. Ha, speed. I'm not surprised to hear this. A lot of my customers are talking to me about, a need for faster payments and now, faster ways to get past due customers back on track. And, I think real-time payments will solve for faster payments, the challenge around faster payments with time. And, there's solutions such as our VCA or virtual collection agent that helps accelerate collections by offering self-service payments arrangements 24/7. So, the results don't surprise me at all. And then smooth and safe, right? Second and third. So our tour around the auto plants of Kentucky is coming to an end. But before we get to our final stop here, let's look at some key takeaways for you to keep in mind. So for that speedy Corvette experience, remember that customers not only want faster payments, but they also want fast confirmation of payment success. The new request for payment functionality is certainly going to accelerate payments and win that race. And then to deliver the smoothness of the navigator, make sure you're offering your consumers several convenient ways to pay and that you're delivering an integrated experience in whatever channel they prefer, right? And then, to ensure the safety like Camry, keep educating your customer on the security of their payment to keep their trust. And then make sure your agents can accept payments just as securely at home, as they can at the call center. And then lastly, before you unbuckle your seats, we do have one more stop on our tour. And I'd like to take, just a quick pit stop back here where we started at my home office in Louisville. Before we get to your questions, here's a quick overview of ACI Worldwide and the ACI SpeedPay solution. Here at ACI, we process $14 trillion per day in payments and securities with 45 years experience in the payment space, right? We work with, a large majority of the auto lenders, about 48%, including 6 of the top 10. So, our clients can feel safe in working with a proven, financially secure partner. And then also, we're the #1 biller direct provider in the U.S. And you can bet with that starting position, the speed at which we respond to, changing market demands is pretty darn fast. And you can ask our clients, the ones that took advantage of the delay my payment and manage my payment solutions rapidly developed, right? For automated deferrals and arrangements amidst the pandemic. Or, more recently, the Texas Power Company who called us, to immediately develop and deploy a customized response message.
So we're just going to wrap up. But thank you so much to Darcy, ACI. We really appreciate all that you do. Remember, the slides and recording will be available later today on ASTA's website in the Webinar Resource Center. Thank you so much, everyone. This concludes today's webinar.